California is lying to drivers. They're telling you that taking away your tire choices will save you money. They're telling you that restricting the tires available for you to buy is somehow consumer protection and saves you gas. And they're telling you that the government bureaucrats know better than you, better than tire engineers, better than mechanics, and better than car manufacturers, and better than the people who actually have to drive and pay for the maintenance of their vehicles every single day. This is a joke. But it's actually not a joke. And the best part of it is they want you to thank them for it. Don't make me laugh. If you haven't heard, California regulators have approved a new replacement tire efficiency program that will determine which covered replacement tires can be sold in the state. And that means 17 other states will foolishly follow and increase the cost of tires for everyone, no matter where you live. Their argument is simple. More efficient tires reduce energy consumption. Low energy consumption means lower fuel and electricity costs. And supposedly everybody wins? I'm not sure how they're doing this math. They're not mathing the math, as they say, especially after California just raised their gas taxes and have made gas prices the highest in the country. Well, I have a few questions. But before I ask those questions, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and click that little bell for notifications. Don't think this story starts and ends with California, because there's a lot more to it. If these tires are so wonderful, why can't consumers simply choose to buy them? Why does the government have to narrow the marketplace? And why does California need to tell you which tires are efficient enough? Are we stupid? No. And why are people making these decisions apparently more concerned about how easily your tires roll than whether you can afford to replace them? Because let's be very clear about something. Tires are not appliances. You don't plug them into the wall. You don't measure them with one number and declare that every other consideration suddenly doesn't matter. There are only 4 pieces of rubber connecting your vehicle to the road, no matter what you drive, and that's called a contact patch, and it's about the size of your fist. The contact patch affects how your vehicle accelerates, turns, stops, performs in the rain, handles in the snow, carries weight, known as load rating, and how it tows, how it handles at highway speeds, and how long it lasts. These multiple factors and more allow tire brands to make different tires so consumers can choose what meets their personal needs. I can't believe that any one of these unelected bureaucrats have a clue about this and the impacts of changing one factor and how it changes the others. They want us to believe that they did any real research on tires at all, because if they did, we would not be having this episode. And for millions of Americans, whether they can afford to buy a safe set of tires in the first place, well, that's a bigger issue. It's a huge issue. But apparently, California has decided that's what drivers really need, is another government program controlling what they're allowed to buy. And if you think this is just a California story, you're not paying attention. Because California has a habit of creating regulations that manufacturers eventually have to consider far beyond the state's borders. Today, it's replacement tires. What will it be tomorrow?
And ultimately, the California Energy Commission, in a unanimous vote, approved new rules that will phase out the sale of replacement tires that are currently sold in California that do not meet certain energy efficiency standards.
Let's talk about what California actually did, because the internet is full of people saying California has banned all tires and banned aftermarket tires. That is not correct. And we don't need to exaggerate the story because the truth is outrageous enough. California is regulating which covered replacement tires can be sold or offered for sale in the state based on a new efficiency and wet grip requirements. I want to know who made these requirements. That's a big question. Do they have any clue? Did they just take this off of AI? I have no idea, because I don't think they do either. The first major phase applies to covered tires manufactured beginning in 2029. Then the requirements get significantly tighter in 2033. And that's where this gets really interesting, because as standards tighten, manufacturers will have to redesign products, qualify under different categories or exemptions, or potentially stop offering some tires in the California market, which could affect the whole country. Critics and industry opponents have warned that a significant percentage of tires currently available could be affected under the stricter standards. So no, the state is not coming to your driveway in 2029 and ripping the tires off your car. Your existing tires do not suddenly become illegal. But when it's time to replace them, the question becomes much more important. Will that tire you want still be available to buy in California? And what if it's not? And if it isn't, too bad. The bureaucrats have already made decisions for you. This clip says it all.
Look at the gas prices everyone's experiencing. Look at how much we're paying for gas. If we can bring Each Californian's cost down just a little bit, and why wouldn't we?
Do you know why it sat dormant for, so long before making?
Well, there may not have been those kind of pressures, cost pressures, right? And, obviously, whatever type of standard we do is going to cost the manufacturer a little bit to meet it. We want to make sure that that delta of the increased cost of the product is small enough that the consumer still reaps a huge savings. So that's really what we're trying to achieve.
There it is. They're saving you money by telling you what you can buy. This is one of my favorite government tricks. They create the problem, they create the regulation, they limit the choices, and then they show up and tell you why they're protecting you from the consequences. Ha ha, we know how this really goes. California drivers already pay some of the highest costs associated with driving in the country. Fuel and insurance, it's expensive. Vehicle repairs and registrations, and the vehicle itself, that's expensive too. And everything associated with owning and operating a vehicle in California costs more than anywhere else in the entire country. So naturally, Sacramento looked at the situation and said, you know what these people need? Another regulation affecting something they have to buy. What a genius idea. And remember, tires are not optional. Everybody needs them, and the government knows that. Eventually, every driver needs tires. You can postpone buying a new television, buying a new phone, and you can skip your next vacation. But when your tires are worn out, damaged, or unsafe, you need to replace them, and that is exactly why this matters. The people hit the hardest by higher costs are not the people sitting in California government offices voting on regulations. It's the single mother trying to keep the family car on the road. It's the college student driving an older vehicle. It's the retiree trying to get a few more years out of a car they already own. It's the contractor with a work truck. It's a small business owner with a small fleet. And it's the customer walking into the tire shop and asking the same question millions of Americans ask. What's the cheapest safe tire you've got? Now imagine that some of those lower cost choices disappear. Do you think that helps the person who is already struggling? Of course not. And what happens when people can't afford to replace their tires? They wait, they drive on worn tires longer, that's unsafe. They search for used tires and put off maintenance of their cars. Again, that's not very smart either. This is not a theoretical concern. This is what happens when you make basic vehicle ownership more expensive. And if the government wants to claim this program saves consumers money, then let's ask the question they should have been asking before this ever passed. What is the upfront cost to drivers, and how long will it take before the promised savings actually exceed it? Because you cannot tell someone struggling to afford 4 tires today that they should be grateful for the theoretical savings years down the road. Hardy har har. We know how this goes. The truth is the cost of tires will not go down. The minimal fuel savings could make your tires handle worse in rain, and the ride quality will definitely not improve. Your vehicle is most likely not designed to use the same type of tire across every vehicle. Every vehicle is designed with a certain type of tire, and we've covered that before. But the bureaucrats don't care. They think they're heroes. They're not. Like I've been saying for years now, follow the money. Who's lining their pockets? Because somebody surely is. California says more efficient tires can reduce energy consumption. Absolutely. Rolling resistance matters. That isn't controversial, although it's a little technical. The question is whether the government should be able to use that fact to narrow the choices available to drivers. And the second question is even more important. What happens to the cost of tires when manufacturers have to redesign, test, certify, and produce products to meet California's specific regulatory systems? Some of those costs don't magically disappear. Somebody's going to pay. And you know that answer. It's you. And I can assure you it won't be the California Energy Commission. It will be the driver standing at the tire counter. It will be the small business. It will be the family trying to keep an older vehicle running. And when choices disappear from the market, competition changes too. That is Economics 101. You don't need to be a tire engineer to understand that fewer options don't automatically mean lower prices. So when California says, don't worry, we're saving you money, maybe someone should ask them to show us exactly how much a compliant tire will cost compared to the tire that disappears from the shelf. Because here's the fundamental problem. California is measuring one part of tire performance, efficiency, but drivers don't buy tires based on one number. I'll dig into that, but first, here's a word from our sponsors. By now, you've probably heard of MASA chips, and I've been a fan of them for years, even before they came on as a sponsor. While most other tortilla chip brands make you feel like crap after you just have a handful, Not the case with MASA. They are different. No seed oils, no preservatives, no deceiving words like natural and other BS. Snacking doesn't have to make you feel bad. And MASA chips are made with organic corn, cooked in 100% grass-fed beef tallow and seasoned with real ingredients. They have a ton of amazing flavors, and personally, my favorites are lime and churro. So yummy. And you can eat a whole bag and actually feel good afterwards. No food coma, no guilty feelings. The crunch is satisfying and perfect for scooping guacamole or making nachos. You can buy them at Sprouts Farmers Market, Wegmans, Target, and Whole Foods, or subscribe like I do. Ready to try them? Go to masachips.com/fix and use the code FIX for 25% off your first order. You'll get addicted to them just like I have. They are so good. One thing to know, because MASA uses real ingredients and makes everything in small batches, certain flavors get out of stock regularly. I finally got my hands on the churro flavor again after it was sold out for weeks. Go to masachips.com/fix and use the code FIX for 25% off, or click the link in the description or scan the QR code. This video is also sponsored by, whether you've been on Medicaid for 10 years or you're just about to sign up, this one's for you. A lot of you are quietly losing money every year, and nobody's pointing it out. Everything costs more these days, and luckily, your Social Security goes up to keep pace, right? Wrong. Medicare's premiums are climbing faster than your cost of living raise, so it gets eaten right back. You're running just to stand still. But here's the thing. This is one bill you can actually do something about. You can make sure your Medicare price and your coverage are dialed in with a company called Chapter. They're honest, independent Medicare advisors. In one simple call, a real licensed person compares every plan against your doctors, your prescriptions, and your budget to find the optimal coverage for your life. If you're already on the best plan, they'll tell you that straight. If not, they'll help you switch. Folks who switched with Chapter last year saved an average of $1,100. It's free and takes under 20 minutes. Click the link below to connect with Chapter. Today's the day to get the facts. Now back to the video. Tires are about compromise. Every tire is an engineering compromise. You want more grip? That can affect tread life and rolling resistance. You want more tread life? Well, then you're going to require different compounds, different priorities. There's a balance. You have to choose which priority you want for your tires because you can't have it all in one tire. Wet performance, off-road traction, towing, winter driving, performance driving, electric vehicles all have different engineering demands. And this is where the bureaucratic approach becomes ridiculous. California is essentially saying that it can create a mandate that captures all of these different aspects and needs while still steering the marketplace toward the state's preferred efficiency targets. This is not possible. Ask any tire expert, ask any engineer, and I'm an engineer and an ASE certified technician. This is impossible. The person driving a commuter sedan in Southern California is not the same customer as a person driving through mountain snow. A pickup truck owner is not the same customer as one driving a sports car. And a family SUV has different needs than a work truck. An enthusiast doesn't buy tires for the same reason as someone who drives 30,000 miles a year. And that is exactly why the marketplace offers thousands of different tires, thousands of different applications from multiple different brands. Now, on my radio show, The Drive with Lauren and Carl, we interviewed tire expert Don Razor about this exact topic. So we talk about OE tires, that what comes from the factory. You know, many people assume that the tire that came on their vehicle automatically is the best replacement tire. So that means it's going to be real expensive. What do you recommend people do in a case like that? Like you were talking about, you have a Mercedes-Benz or it could be a Toyota, it could be a Hyundai, and I get a tire on this car. Do I want to replace it with that exact same tire?
Not necessarily. The only time we really do factory replacements are for two reasons. Number one, a lease turned in, or somebody gets in an accident, they need 1, 2, or 3 tires. Very rarely does people say, gee, I had great luck with this factory OE tire, because they're made to a different criteria. So 9 out of 10 times to say, hey, let's go with something else. You're in a business, what do you recommend? And then we always try to qualify people. And this is the problem that tire people make all the time. You call a tire store, yeah. They quote you on the lowest thing.
Yeah.
What do you got one step up? But we ask people, okay, who drives this car? How many miles do you put on this car? What kind of driving you do? Well, we only drive it locally, but then again, we go to Nantucket with the girls. We got a game up there in a few weeks, and we may have to go up there in winter, stop right there. So we know what to recommend. If we recommend the wrong tire, it's our fault.
Right.
If we don't ask the customer and try to qualify them. You got to give them the best buck, the value for the buck, and you have to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you're dead in the water, and you're going to sell a tire to a customer that doesn't give them what they need, and what they're paying for.
Because drivers have different needs, the solution to different needs is choice. The California solution, a government formula. And if your preferred tire doesn't fit, too bad. But California says it won't compromise safety. But it's compromising safety. Now California regulators say their analysis shows these requirements can be met without compromising safety, wet grip, or tire life. Whose analysis? What tire experts did they confer with? Did they actually talk to the brands or just some random person they paid? Maybe that's part of following the money. And the regulation does include wet grip requirements and exemptions or special treatment for certain categories. That's initially on the first part. Competition tires, certain off-road tires, winter-related categories, and smaller diameter tires, and qualifying limited production tires all receive exclusions or special treatment under the current framework. But that could go away at any time. And we know how this goes. So again, let's stick to the facts. This is not a blanket ban on every performance tire. It's not a law making your current tires illegal, but that does not make the consumer choice question disappear. The real question is what happens as the standards tighten, particularly in 2033. This is a big concern. What happens to tires that don't qualify? And what happens to lower volume products? What happens to specialized products that aren't protected by any exemption? And what happens to the price? Oh, we all know the answer to that. Because I'm not being all doom and gloom. This has happened before many times, and it will happen again. And what happens when the driver simply can't afford the remaining choices? Those are not crazy questions. Those are the exact questions California drivers should be asking.
From the commission or the industry perspective, what we're really concerned about is the fact that these costs to the average, families in California that are, struggling with affordability is that it's going to increase their costs by hundreds of dollars in phase 2. And we've highlighted that. And even in CEC's own data, you can see that. So we're rather disappointed that they move forward with phase 2.
And now let's get back to the part that should make every American outside of California pay attention. California rules never stay in California. California is a massive market, and manufacturers have a choice. Do they build one product for California and another for the rest of the country? Nope. Or do they build products that can satisfy the California standard across a much larger market? We have seen versions of this before in the automotive industry, and California creates a standard, and manufacturers respond because California is too large to ignore. Then suddenly, a regulation designed in Sacramento starts influencing products available everywhere else. That's why this isn't just a story about California drivers. Drivers in New York, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Arizona, every state should be paying attention, because once California demonstrates that it can regulate a massive consumer market through a state commission, other states may decide to follow. And before you know it, your tire choices may be affected by a policy you never voted for in a state you don't even live in. That should bother every American regardless of political party. This is not about whether you like efficient tires. Buy efficient tires. I have no problem with that. There are drivers who absolutely should prioritize efficiency. This is why we have choices. The issue is not whether efficient tires should exist. Of course they should. The issue is why California believes consumers should lose alternatives because unelected regulators have decided one particular measurement is more important. So who asked for this? And here's the question that keeps coming back. Who asked California to do this? Did California drivers vote on which tires they should be allowed to buy? Did every tire consumer get to vote? Or did an appointed commission decide that consumers need to be protected from their own purchasing decisions?
Is there a backup plan if the California Energy Commission's expectations around cost savings aren't met with this rule?
Well, we're committed to doing this right. We are only doing it because we know it will save Californians money. So we're going to monitor. We're going to do on our enforcement well. We have decades of experience with this. We have appliance standards that are saving Californians money every day. And so we're going to use that same capability that we have for appliance standards on this. And sure, we'll revise it if things become less practical, but we're pretty confident.
Listen carefully to the language. Protecting consumers, saving consumers money. Efficiency. It's always sounding so good until you realize what it actually means. The government has decided that your decision is no longer good enough. You may think a particular tire is the best value. You may prefer a tire brand or a tire because of its performance. You may want the cheapest, safe option available. The state may decide it doesn't meet the government's preferred standard, and eventually you don't have to be told no. The product just disappears from the marketplace. That is the beauty of regulating commerce. Nobody has to come and knock on your door. No one has to confiscate anything, and no one has to announce a dramatic ban. You simply go to buy something you've always been able to buy and discover, sorry, not available in California. And if you say, well, I'll just buy it out of state, well, they can't ship it to California, and it can't be installed in California because there's a fine for the tire shops. And California's rules don't simply stop at the local tire shop. The regulatory framework specifically includes internet, telephone, and mail order sales intended for end use in California. So the simple answer of, I'll just order my tires from somewhere else, may not be so simple. Again, think about what that means. A driver may see a tire online. The manufacturer may make it. A retailer may sell it somewhere else. It may also be legal in another state, but California can still restrict that tire from being sold and installed on your vehicle in its market if it doesn't comply with this new program. And that raises an interesting possibility. Will California drivers simply drive across state lines to purchase and install new tires? Under the current framework, the program regulates sales into California. It does not create a general ban on possessing and operating a vehicle using an otherwise legal tire genuinely purchased outside the state. So imagine how absurd this could become. A California driver wants a particular tire. They can't buy it locally. They can't have it shipped to their house. So the driver goes to Nevada, Arizona, or another state, buys the tires, has them installed there, and drives home. That's not consumer protection. That's a government creating an obstacle course for buying 4 tires. The real question is, what's next? And this is why this tire story matters, because this has never been just about tires. It's about a precedent. Once the government establishes that it can regulate a product category this deeply in the name of efficiency, the next question is obvious. What's next? What other part of your vehicle will be judged against the government efficiency formula? What other consumer choice will be narrowed because regulators decide there are too many options? And what happens when the standard keeps tightening? Because the regulations have a way of doing that, don't they? The story kind of goes like this. The first phase begins, the market adjusts. Then the standards get tougher. Then manufacturers adjust again. Then the choices get narrower. Then the regulators tell you the next restriction is necessary because the previous one didn't go far enough. And suddenly, the thing you were told would never happen has happened. And one small regulation at a time, and we know how this goes. Today, the state isn't taking tires off your car, but it is building a system that controls which covered replacement tires can enter the marketplace. Is California planning to own all of the tire shops to control what you buy? Well, I hope not, because that might be on their agenda as well. California says this is about saving drivers money. I don't buy it. Not when the government has to restrict choices to make the math work, especially when drivers are already struggling with the cost of owning a vehicle. And when an unelected commission gets to make decisions that could dramatically reshape what is available in one of the largest automotive markets in the country, well, that's a problem. Because if efficient tires are the best choice for you, buy them. That's what freedom looks like. You decide. When the government regulators decide that you are no longer allowed to choose among the products that meet your needs because they don't meet Sacramento's preferred efficiency formula, something bigger is happening. Your choices are being narrowed. Your costs are definitely going to increase. And once again, California is asking drivers to trust the people who created another regulation to tell them that the regulation is somehow for their own good. So here's the question I want California officials to answer, and I want every driver watching this to ask. If the government-approved tires are really cheaper, better, and such an obvious win for consumers, why do they have to take away the alternatives? Why not let the market compete? Why not let drivers decide? Why not allow consumers to choose the tire that fits their vehicle, their driving conditions, their budget, and their needs? The answer may be uncomfortable because this isn't really about trusting drivers to make the right choice. It's about who gets the final say. And in California, increasingly the answer is not you. It's the bureaucrats, the unelected ones. Today, they're deciding what tires retailers can sell you. Tomorrow? Who knows? Because once the government can take away your choices and convince you that it's saving you money, they didn't have to ban anything. They just make sure you can't buy it.